Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome into Morning in the Valley. I am Jeff Bidwell. As we've got a good show for you coming up today. Here in about 10 minutes, we are going to talk with the commissioner of the Missouri Valley Conference, Jeff Jackson, will be with us. Lots to get to with the commissioner. We've got a program leaving the Missouri Valley here within the next 7-8 weeks. What's next? Is 11 the magic number? We're also going to talk about the NCAA tournament, at-large bids. Where does the Missouri Valley Conference fit into all that? We'll talk with the commission coming up at about 9:10, and then at about 9:30 this morning, we will talk with the head coach of the Drake women's basketball program, Allison Pohlman, as a new era. As we've talked about with that Bulldog program, some of the all-time greats in that program graduating and moving on. So we'll talk about the next chapter coming up in Drake basketball with Allison Pohlman. Glad you're with us today, wherever you may be watching us, Facebook, X, YouTube. Do us a favor, head on over to YouTube, help this show continue to grow, get it out to more Missouri Valley Conference loving folks. Head to YouTube, just search Morning in the Valley, subscribe to that page. You'll get the little notification bell every time we go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. here during the off season. All right. This is the time of the year where it is now officially begun. Rosters are almost set. We're not ready to finally go, okay, we're done here. We've got a couple weeks left before everybody, we're having graduation commencements really this weekend, next weekend as well, and then a brief break, and then summer school begins, which means summer workouts, and that means, okay, the 25-26 rosters really need to be set, and that is the coaches kind of getting the final pieces in place. Now the attention turns to the almighty non-conference schedules, and nobody, this is like, right now, all of our Catholic friends waiting for the smoke to come out of the chimney to name the new pope. This is just, you get the loaf of bread at some point in August, September, when the full schedule is completed. Right now, it's just these little breadcrumbs, and ultimately, fans of programs having to reverse engineer their schedule because so often, and I've talked to coaches in the past, especially when it's guarantee games and, like a Missouri Valley team is going to go play at the Big Ten, that they almost feel like it's the Big Ten school, the buyer, as opposed to the buyee in these guarantee games. It's the buyer's responsibility to announce the games and not the buyees. And so that's where you just kind of reverse engineer the schedule, trying to find those 11 non-conference games. And it's finally starting to trickle out. Finally, it has begun as we piece together this 25-26 season. And the first one on the board is the Purple Aces of Evansville, as they have announced they will be playing at Purdue. Opening night, November the 4th, they will go to West Lafayette. First meeting since 2005 between these programs. 15th meeting all time. But again, first time in 20 years, they are going to hook up. I love it when the big in-state schools, or the big schools host the power schools, host the mid-majors host the low majors, whatever. Just keep those in-state, I don't know that you call them rivalries, but at least matchups together. And I think it's great. Evansville doing that twice this season. December the 13th, they are going to go to Notre Dame and play the Fighting Irish in South Bend. So we've got 5 games we know right now for Evansville, at Purdue, at Notre Dame, and then they will go to the Virgin Islands. I guess it's Thanksgiving week, November 21st to the 24th, and play in the Paradise Jam. The 8 teams down there, you've got Evansville, Charleston, Akron, Green Bay, Iona, Oregon State, UMass, and Yale. As you will see as we go through this process this summer, is that the MTE season is changing a lot. In that the power schools are just not going to play in them. They're going to go to these NIL type events that we'll talk about with the commissioner coming up in a little bit. And so it's tougher and tougher to get good games in a non-conference. But you look at that field, Akron was an NCAA tournament team last year. Yale was an NCAA tournament team last year. They were top 100 schools. Oregon State was a top 100 school in the KenPom last year. So some good games for Evansville to play. You throw in Purdue, who's probably going to be, 1-2 in the country in the preseason. Notre Dame, on the rise there as well. So a good non-conference starting to come together here for Evansville. 5 games down, 6 to go still in their non-conference schedule. We told you the other day about a commitment. It is now officially a signing, and it is Vanderbilt transfer Alex Hemingway. He has officially signed with the Purple Aces. He's from Newburgh, Indiana, just down the road, played 5 years at Clemson, 1 year at Vanderbilt, and now he's going to come play year number 7 of college basketball. The other day, a starstruck college basketball career. He's played 5 games total in the last 2 seasons. Did not play at all last year at Vanderbilt due to injuries. So sort of a one last shot. Thought last year was the last shot. This will be his last shot to play at Evansville. 43% three-point shooter for his career. Excuse me. David Ragland bringing in some snipers from the outside in Alex Hemingway, and see how he will be able to help out that Purple Ace program. All right, back to scheduling. And Indiana State has been busy this week as they have their first real power game on their schedule for this season. They are going to go to Duke, according to our friend Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org. He is reporting that Friday night, November the 14th, Indiana State will be at Cameron Indoor to take on the Blue Devils. And this note from Rocco, Duke has been playing basketball since 1906. Indiana State has been playing basketball since 1899. And somehow this will be the first ever meeting between these two programs. So a good one to start with from a guarantee standpoint for Matthew Graves there at Indiana State. We don't have a date yet, but we do know, thanks to Rick Semler at WTWO TV, that Indiana State has dialed up a home series that will start this year with Milwaukee. Last year, Milwaukee won 41, end of the year in the KenPom, but they won 21 games, a good team. The home will start at Milwaukee this year. It'll come back to Terre Haute next season. No date has been announced for that one yet, but a second game for the Sycamores in their non-conference schedule. Okay. Valparaiso. And Valparaiso they have been adding, and they've been adding size, and they have gotten some more size. We'll get to the size in a moment, but they got a couple of teammates from last year, which I thought was interesting, as they have signed Brody Whitaker, a 6'3". He's going to be a fifth-year guard from the University of Indianapolis, U-Indy, as they call it, their Division II program. Again, fifth-year guard, averaged 14 points a game last year for U-Indy. That was second on the team. 4.6 rebounds a game for a 6'3" guard. That was second on the team. Had 1.3 steals per game. That led the team. So a veteran guard to come in and hopefully be able to help right away for Roger Powell. Now back to the size. Brody's teammate, Tucker Tornata, he is a 6'8", just completed his freshman season. He has committed to Valparaiso, 7.5 points a game as a freshman, 6 rebounds a game. That was number 1 on U-Indy last year. He's also second on the team in total blocks. Both of these guys are Indiana guys staying home, I guess, just heading north from Indianapolis and now going up to Valparaiso. Then you're starting to see this more and more, reaching into the international waters to go find some players. And Roger Powell has done that as he has gone to New Zealand, and he has signed 6'9" high school standout Carter Hopoi, who has played professionally. That's what you see from these international kids, is that whether it's Europe, whether it's this from New Zealand, that high school basketball is not usually in the AAU world, not really, it's not as structured as well, maybe as feeder systems as it is here in the United States. And so oftentimes these guys will go play professionally, and you will see them play up, you're playing against men and so on, but there's an NCAA loophole that basically allows them to play professionally overseas and then still be able to come and play collegiately here in the U.S. So that is the situation for Carter Hopoi. He has played in the uh, NBL, which is the professional league down there in Australia and New Zealand. Last September, he played at the FIBA 18 and under tournament. The Asia Cup averaged 17 points, 10 rebounds, 1.5 blocks. So certainly high upside for Carter, but another big dude, 6'9", and the 6'8" and Tucker Tornada. And there have been countless 6'8s and 6'9s, it seems like, that Roger Powell has brought in. So you don't expect size necessarily to be an issue this season when you are talking with about rather the Beacons of Valparaiso. Yesterday, also, we saw a commitment and a signing almost instantly as Murray State has added another body. And this one comes from Lyon, France. Matisse Corbon, the first French recruit in Murray State history, the 6'6" wing, 20 years old, same situation as we saw there with Hopoy, as he has played professionally. He's been working up through the ranks there in France, has played in the LNB, which is the professional league, but it's the B league. So it's the second tier professional league there in France. A 6'5", skilled wing, just another piece there for new head coach Ryan Miller, as he is now the math. He has got 12 scholarships fulfilled so far. He's still got 3 to play with if he chooses. So one freshman who signed back in November, he is staying in Tristan Ford. 10 guys out of the portal. They're still waiting on one to sign, but then now one internationally in Matisse Corbon, as Murray State putting together their roster for the 2025-26 season. All right, we are waiting on the commissioner, who will be with us here in just a couple of minutes. While we wait, the Drake Bulldogs have been busy still, as Eric Henderson, another one of those coaches that has had to just add guys, and with so many either graduation or players that went to Iowa with Coach Ben McCullum. He has signed a transfer out of, we talked about this commitment a few days ago, but it is now officially signed. Jalen Quinn comes from Loyola Chicago, 6'3" guard, played 3 years there. He has signed with the Bulldogs, 7 points a game last season. Not a great three-point shooter, shot 23% at least last year, but 53% from two, so able to score, finish around the rim. Also got some size in 6'6", sophomore Wilkins Jr. exact out of Bowling Green, 4 points, 4 rebounds a game. He's a house. He is a house, and certainly going to be an intimidating presence on the front line there for Coach Henderson in Des Moines. And then one other commitment yesterday that we learned about from his agency, and it is Oku Federico, who is from Finland. He came halfway through last season and played at South Carolina. Did not play, but came midway through the year. He redshirted and now is into the transfer portal. 6'8", raw, but another just massive dude in the middle for Coach Henderson there in Des Moines. As we are, I feel like I need some interns here, be able to handle all the air traffic control we're trying to do here on the program as we wait on the commish. We talked about the Australian connection, and we have players coming from Australia, coming from New Zealand. Well, we also have players going that direction as well, and that is Murray State's Caitlin Young, who has signed a contract with the Knox Raiders out of Australia. They play in what they have the NBL, which is, like I said, the big league there in the Australia and New Zealand. But then you also have the NBL 1, which is their second tier league there. And it's basically up here, it's a summer league. Down there, it's a winter league. And so it has already begun. Caitlin is going to graduate a second time with her master's degree here this summer. and or master's degree this weekend rather, and then she is very quickly within a matter of a week or so afterwards, she's going to pack up and she's going to head down to New Zealand, to Australia rather, and go play for the Knox Raiders. They are a good team in that league, but that she's going to have, I think it's about 15, 16 games left to play, and sort of an opportunity for her to sort of training wheels, if you will, on sort of the overseas life. You know, it's not a massive time commitment. I think 2 months at the most that she will be down there. And then she will come home. And then the plan is still in the fall to head over to Europe and be able to play there. But Murray State's all-time leading scorer, all-time leading rebounder. The jersey's retired. The undisputed GOAT of Murray State women's hoops. Very quickly able to find a job. And that's what, as parents, that's what we all hope for coming out of college. You just want somebody to be able to get a job. And she has certainly found one, and going to get a great opportunity to head down to Australia and play down there. That it's a deal where, you know, she said it was, when I got a chance to talk to her yesterday, I'm going alone just from a transition period. It's like they speak English, so that's great. You know, it's going to grease the skids a little bit, but it's going to be a culture change. You're only teams there. I think the rules are you can only have two non-Australian New Zealand players with the program, with the team. So they have two Americans down there right now. I guess one will be leaving, and then Caitlin will be replacing that player. But she's going, and she's super excited about that opportunity. All right. So continuing with our recruitment conversation this morning, and Mark Mitchell at Indiana State has been busy because as we talked about a few weeks ago, this is a complete redo for him going into year two. That everybody on his roster got into the portal, and that made that makes it difficult when you're trying to just start from scratch. But that is essentially what he is having to do. And much like Roger Powell going to U Indy, I say IU and IUPUI, U Indy, and going and getting a couple of teammates, he has done the same thing with his program there at Indiana State, as he has gotten a commitment from Mary Flowers, Mimi, averaged 7 points, 4 rebounds a game at McLennan Community College down in Waco, Texas, a 6'2" freshman. And that is the same program that Kennedy Ard is from, who has committed to Indiana State as well. So some familiar faces with each other that are coming up to Terre Haute. Just reached out to Associate Commissioner Mike Kern there from the Missouri Valley Conference. Some technical difficulties right now at the mothership with the commissioner. We'll get him on here in just a moment. Along with Mary Flowers, he's gotten a commitment from Yasmin Brightwell, who has signed now with Indiana State. 5'11" wing. Last year played with Union Junior College in New Jersey. 8 points, 4 rebounds a game, shot 31% from three. So it was a 5'11" wing, able to step outside and certainly make the defense honor that for her. So that is they're getting closer. I think they're up to 7-8 now. So still some work to do here in the next couple of weeks for Coach Mitchell. Again, we're in this recruiting shutdown right now. No calls, no texts, no videos, no nothing. But time is slowly leaking away for him to get that full roster in. But that'll be done here within the next 3 weeks before they come back after Memorial Day to start the summer program. All right. I think the commission will be with us here in just one moment. One other piece of news, Binghamton transfer Chris Walker. He has signed with UIC. We told you about that commitment a few days ago. It might have been even Monday. They're coming so fast and furious. They all kind of run together at this point. 6'6" guard, played 1 year at Arkansas Little Rock, 2 at Binghamton, the last two at Binghamton, and averaged 11 points, 11 and a half points, 4 rebounds, a couple of assists a game this past season for Binghamton. Shot 43% from three. And that's probably the most impactful part of that, as just another big wing that can impact Rob Eson's team. As there, Javon Jackson, who was their leading scorer last year, transferred into Murray State, so trying to find some more scoring, and certainly another. When we talked with him, I guess that was last Friday that we spoke, that there was a there's kind of the two paths, or the three paths, I guess. Do you go get high school kids? Do you go get the distressed assets from a bigger school, or that maybe average 2 points a game and you're going to try to reach that potential? Or do you go to a lower level and bring somebody up that has shown that they can have success? And certainly Chris Walker has done just that, averaging 11.6 a game and shooting 43% there at Binghamton. So Chris Walker, the newest signee for the Flames of UIC, as we are waiting on the ... from Mike Curtin here to see what's going on with the commissioner, as they are trying to get him. No, we cannot see. No, we can't see you. This is the joys of live television, as we like to say. Let's see if have we missed him. We have not missed him. So we may have to punt on the commissioner and try to get him here at a later time, and we'll be able to bring him in, record his conversation at another time when we don't have to do the high wire act here of getting an opportunity to get him with us. But a lot to, again, when we do get a chance to talk with him, really the main things that I'm most curious about is just where we are with. Let me try this one more time. Come on. Yep. All right. This is good radio, good TV. Glad you're with us. Just sent you another link, Mike, in case you're watching. We're going to try this one more time. I think we're going to finally have him here. I think. And I'm going to see if we can get the commission on here. This is the part why I bet everybody just go to the fridge, go take a walk, and hopefully come back, as we're getting some more ... here from Mike Hurt. We're going to again talk about the change in the league. Missouri State leaving at the end of June, so the league will go back to 11. The part really from a scheduling standpoint, that's going to cause some not concerns, but changes next year. I think you're going to see some mini buys next year, and there they are. There's the man. We're going to bring him in. Enough of me chatting. Let's
apologize for being late.
Oh, not your problem.
I'm a little technologically challenged, so
we're all good.
Yeah.
How
are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm glad my tap dancing shoes I can take off now. I'm glad you were with us today. We're going to get right to it here. June 30th, Missouri State moves on. When we talked last summer about, everybody was all antsy about what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And you said, hey, man, to paraphrase, 11's okay. We're fine with 11. I feel like at this point, barring a miracle, we're going to be at 11 next year. Where's your head at right now with where the league is and the number 11 moving forward?
Well, the mindset of the board has not changed on this topic, Jeff. When I first took over replacing Doug Elgin, the conference was at 10 schools. And then Loyola departed, and we quickly ended up at 12. So dropping back to 11 isn't really uncomfortable. Matter of fact, it's still above where we were 3 years ago. And I think the fact that we're geographically sensible, I think the fact that we have good relationships in our boardroom, that we're having some success in with our student athlete experience and obviously on the national stage. I think our board is very comfortable with the composition of the conference. Certainly, we keep our head on a swivel, and if something was to come forward that our board would feel good about in terms of thinking this would be an opportunity to enhance our student athlete experience and some promotional and branding opportunities for the conference, I know they would take that under advisement, but that conversation is not being held right now.
We talked last summer. It felt like there was a lot of it's coming, and it hasn't in terms of NCAA tournament expansion. Was it going to be 72, 74, 76? And it feels like everything's kind of going radio silent in that department. Is there anything update wise you can give us about the future of the tournament and the future of the field of 68?
Well, I think, and again, you may not be aware, I'm a member of the D1 Council. I'm also the vice chair for Men's Basketball Oversight Committee. Look, there are healthy conversations taking place right now in regards to the possibility of expanding the tournament. Nothing's finalized. I think there is a little bit of a sense of optimism. I think if there is an expansion, it will be modest. So you may be looking at 72 or 76. But we know metrically, looking at the history of the Missouri Valley, if that was to occur, in all likelihood, it makes us a multi-bid league. So we're very much in favor of tournament expansion, hope that it comes to fruition quite quickly, and feel that our programs will be in a position to take advantage of it if it does occur.
There was a lot. I'm a firm believer of I got to see something happen a lot, at least a couple times before I'm going to knee jerk too much. I know everybody was very antsy about no mid majors in the Sweet 16 this year. It's like, all right, that was 1 year. Let's just relax. But to see the trend in the last 5 years of multi-bid leagues from 2021, where we had 11 and then went to 10 and 9, back to 10 this year, just 7. Where is your concern right now about a seat at the table? And maybe more importantly, multiple seats at the table for the Missouri Valley Conference, maybe in this pre-expansion world. And even look, if it gets to 8, if we add another 4 or 6 or 8, we all know that's not all going to mid-major teams. But where's your head at right now?
Well, we feel pretty good. We still have some work to do as a conference, and in terms of getting back to that space where we feel comfortable as a multi-bid conference every year. And we're seeing the efforts amongst our institutions and our coaching staffs to get there. Certainly, there's a lot of excitement right now in Murray, Kentucky. Ryan is off to a tremendous start, and I think there are good things ahead for Racers Nation. But I also think, when we look at the success that Drake has had, especially in this last tournament, having a chance to beat a team like Missouri, also knowing with the possibilities of expansion, knowing the commitment that our board, our presidents and chancellors have made to the space of basketball. And that's not just men's basketball, that's women's basketball. We have a chance to consistently be a multi-bid, a conference in that specter also. I feel really good about where we are and where we're headed. Is it more challenging? Is it a more challenging environment? Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. But I don't hear a lot of conversation about the fact that between the Big East and the ACC, they only had one team in the Sweet 16. I don't think anybody really believes that is going to be the trend or the future method of that conference. And I don't feel that our conference, like the Missouri Valley, are not going to have ample opportunities for multi-bid participation in the NCAA tournament in both genders.
I feel like this year, and again, it's 1 year, but I felt like, I don't know if I want to call it a problem, but it felt like we had a Drake problem this year where they won 30 games in the regular season. They win Arch Madness. They're 30-3 and they're an 11 seed. And it just felt like if stuff had gone sideways for them in St. Louis, they may not be in. That it kind of feels like that was that cut line for everything and you guys have done and trying to work on these scheduling principles and trying to help bolster everybody's resumes. Was that concerning to you to see them win 30 games, not lose any games in the non-conference, lose 3 games in the regular season by 4, 7, and 2, and see them have such a razor thin margin?
It wasn't a concern. A person that I worked with for several years made a comment to me Uh, you can mess up the seeding. What you can't mess up is who's admitted to the tournament. We had several conversations with the NCAA monitoring committee, and to be quite candid, we felt very confident about Drake's participation in the tournament, regardless of whether or not they were able to be successful in Arch Madness. They had a very different resume than Indiana State in the previous season, even though Indiana State had a higher net. The fact that Drake had been able to win at Kansas State, beat Vanderbilt, beat a Miami team that 2 years ago was in the Final Four, beat a Florida Atlantic team that 2 years ago was in the Final Four, have the type of success that they had in one of the top 10 conferences in the country. We felt very confident, regardless of what happened in that championship game, that Drake was going to be admitted. So did not experience the angst that maybe you were experiencing. So didn't have to go through that and didn't think about it in that fashion.
Is there any of the Rubik's Cube? Is the principles, are they ever evolving? Are you happy with where they're at?
I think we're always looking at anything that we think can enhance our opportunity to be successful on the national stage when it comes to basketball. So certainly we have things in place that we're comfortable with, that we've looked at metrically and scientifically. Certainly there's also art to this. To try and create the best scenario we can for our teams, and obviously our coaches and ADs and presidents and chancellors have also aligned in terms of trying to make that happen. But this is an evolving world, and so you always have to be willing to make changes. But we're very comfortable with the approach that our coaches have towards scheduling, the support that our institutions have, not just in terms of what they do on the court, but off the court. We feel pretty good about where we are and where we're headed, and we're excited. And again, as we talked about earlier, certainly an expansion of the tournament field is something that's going to benefit a conference like the Missouri Valley.
It feels like this was more of a popular thing maybe 10 years ago. Is there any benefit to any of these conference alliances, challenges, whatever you want to call them, in the non-conference and matching up with another league?
Only if we feel that league creates a better opportunity than playing a conference game. So for example, in not trying to be disparaging towards any conference, but we're ranked 10th in the nation as a conference. We have been for the last 2 seasons. So I'm not sure how much it benefits us to do an alliance with the 13th or 14th or 15th ranked conference. That seems to be status quo. What we would hope is we would be able to do something with a conference that maybe is 9 or 8 or possibly 11. We've had those conversations, as you can imagine, especially when you're talking about something that is as sensitive and individualized as scheduling. Those conversations hasn't borne any fruit yet, but it's something that we're always discussing, always looking at, and always seeing if there's an opportunity to assist our institutions when it comes to their non-conference scheduling.
Last 2 questions for you. The MTE model seems to be falling apart. A lot of the big school opportunities to play big schools on neutral floors, they're going to these NIL events and so on. First of all, can any Missouri Valley teams get into those types of events?
One of the reasons Drake was so popular was, hey, they went to a tournament last year where they had a chance to play Miami, Vanderbilt, and Florida Atlantic on a neutral floor. Yeah. So I don't, we have not experienced the same level of angst with our better teams. I'm not going to tell you that all 11 teams have the same opportunity to participate in these tournaments. But our top teams have the opportunity to participate in those tournaments, and we've seen that over the last few years.
Is there, when there's money on like this Players Era Festival going on in Vegas, and they're getting more higher level teams, but when they're handing out checks for $1 million, I mean, that would be incredibly impactful for a Missouri Valley Conference team to get that kind of NIL money.
It is, Jeff, but if you're talking about $1 million for, and again, I want to be very careful here. I don't want to poo-poo $1 million, but when you're talking about $1 million and that you split, and again, remember, it's not $1 million. There's a lot to this. It's a little bit more, how would I put it? There's more variables in play here in terms of how you have to split that money up, how it has to be shared, all those type of things. It's not $1 million per athlete.
I get
okay. So don't get me wrong. Certainly our institutions, if given the opportunity, would strongly consider participating in that. But I don't want it to feel like it's some type of avalanche of funding that you couldn't replicate in other fashions.
Last question for you. For the first time, the Missouri Valley Women's Tournament was in Evansville this year. You guys are on a 3-year rotating a basis with that event. How did you, from your seat, how did the first trip to Evansville go for you?
Well, we were very appreciative of the Evansville community. We thought they did a tremendous job embracing our young women athletes. Great tournament. Obviously, the job that Missouri State did, Murray State did in the tournament really stood out, and the fan support and that they had in Evansville was tremendous. It'll be interesting. Next year, we go back to the Northwest playing in Coralville. We're excited about that. And then we're scheduled the following year to play in the Quad Cities again. It'll be a great conversation for the board to figure out exactly what they want to do with that championship after we go through this 3-year cycle. I think they're all studying, they're taking in the information, they're seeing how the experience was for our student athletes, and I'm sure they'll make a very good decision about what's next for Missouri Valley Conference women's basketball.
He is Missouri Valley Conference Commissioner Jeff Jackson. Thank you for the time. I apologize for the tap dancing. I'm sure all my fault this morning. So
no problem, Jeff. Anytime. Happy to join you.
All right. Thank you for coming on.
All right. Stay safe.
You too. There's the commissioner, and waiting ever so patiently, and glad to finally be able to bring her in. Let's welcome in the head coach of the Drake women's basketball program, Allison Pohlman. Coach, good morning. Apologize for our tardiness today. It's a recruiting shutdown week. Maybe just 2 minutes of relaxation. What's the most relaxing thing you've allowed yourself to do this week when you haven't had to be working 27 hours a day?
Great question. I actually love to play golf. So I have really tried to find my way onto whatever course will have me. So to litter up wherever, not the fairways by any stretch, to take out a few trees here and there, but definitely just love the weather and being able to be outside.
What has this spring been like for you from a recruiting standpoint? You signed 4 freshmen in the fall. You've signed Lexi Carlson, the transfer from Northern Illinois, lost an incredibly talented senior group, but didn't feel like this was hey, we got to go find 10 kids in the portal.
No, definitely. And, I think that's one of our MO sort of, situations. We're, really, really blessed to the last few years have been in the situation where we haven't had to completely reconstruct a roster. So yes, 8 returners. We signed 4 freshmen in the fall, and then looking forward to obviously having Lexi Carlson join our group. It's, this is just what you do. Our new normal, I think, in women's basketball is transitioning to really this period of, the end of March, once you're done playing, ultimately into April, is having all of these visits, figuring out who it is that you're going to try to attract, what your team needs are. So the recruiting is it's all at an all-time high, definitely with transfer portaling, and then also clearly just going after very talented high school athletes.
I want to put a bow on this past season, which in a lot of ways, to me at least from the outside, felt like it was kind of the end of an era of this just incredible senior class that you had. Having been to the NCAA tournament in 23 and going again in 24, what was the feeling when you came up short this year? I mean, was there any, shock's the right word, but just, it's like, This is this program has been there so often and just really dominated the last decade that and not to go so far as to call it a birthright, but it's like, this is our championship. Someone has to take from us. Was there almost a sense of, I can't believe somebody took it?
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I think you summed that up extremely well, because, I would definitely agree with you. And I think the senior class that we were able to put on the floor, very, very consistently, for the most part they thought it was just going to happen. And mostly because, they'd been there, done that, in 2023, we had such amazing success and kind of came into that tournament and, and won really 3 games. And the last 2 games were, where we could really breathe through it. And then the next year, in that final with Missouri State coming down to the wire, and on Anna Miller's, Hail Mary of a shot, to be able to get back to the NCAA tournament. I just think this team, which is so special, just had such a belief that it would happen. And we had so many ups and downs this season, as far as, just really the inconsistencies. But I do think what this goes to say, and it's not just the senior class at Drake University, it's the senior classes in the Missouri Valley Conference. I think that we were very, very talented, very deep. We played a lot of teams with a lot of very veteran sort of players and upperclassmen. And I think that that's what, that's what makes our conference so much fun.
That semifinal game against Murray State, I have watched Katie Dinnebeer play with my own eyes for the last couple of years, and said she is not an imposing figure when she walks into the gym, and it takes about 30 seconds to realize that she is a certified killer on the floor. And for her to get 45 in a game that was ultimately an elimination game for you guys, what did that say to you about her will, sort of the will of this program, that it was like, you may be able to take this championship from us, but you are going to have to pry it out of our cold, dead hands?
Yeah. I do. I appreciate that. Well, she's a dog, and I think what's so impressive about, what she was able to do this year was, when her team needed her to put her, put our complete team and whatever, however many other pounds of pressure that the other team was, imposing, she sure did it. And she did it. She did so in such big, big games, and so many exclamation points for that young lady. But what I think is special about what she was able to do is really the imprint that she leaves for our current players that, that got an opportunity probably way too often to stand around and watch her, but also to, to be in the gym, to be, alongside her in practices, to listen to what she would say. And I know that, this is what everybody says about her, and I cannot say it enough, but she was all about the team. Whether she needed to score 45 or 4 points, it didn't matter. But it was ultimately about Drake University, whatever she could do to put Drake women's basketball in the best position she could possibly do, she was going to do it. But I love the fact that you say how imposing she was. So growing up, she was a gymnast. And so that's kind of, but you think about Simone Biles, she walks in and she's not the most imposing either, but then you put her on one of those floor exercises, my goodness sakes, she's just dominating. So, which is pretty cool because Katie definitely, and really special for her to be back-to-back player of the year once again in a league that had such deep talent.
2,088 points, 780 assists, 272 steals, 38% from three for her career. Last 35 years, she is the only player in college basketball to have all of those numbers. When did you know? And I know we saw, when did I think turn into, I know that we've got something incredibly special in our program?
Yeah. Well, I what I would say is, her very first collegiate game, we played Creighton University at home, games tied, and she ends up hitting pretty much, the Caitlin Clark logo 3 to win the game. And, that November date, that very first game, there was a lot of head nodding as far as holy cow, this kid's going to be really, really impressive. But, I think where it comes out, or where you found that we knew what we were going to be dealing with, was just her day-to-day work ethic. And this was not necessarily just on the basketball court. There were so many times, I can't tell you enough, Jeff, I would walk into our locker room being the first person here, and she beat me, and she's in there drawing up all kinds of equations and, definitions or whatever else on our whiteboard in our locker room. And she's quote unquote, she calls herself a nerd, but she loves school, and she's equally as competitive in the classroom as she is on the court. So somebody out there is going to get a real diamond in the rough once they hire Katie Dinnebeer.
Were you surprised that she decided basketball was done? I mean, obviously she's brilliant and she's got whole other things outside of basketball she's going to be incredibly successful at, but it just felt like boy, there's more there to get. Were you surprised?
I was a little surprised, but also, every day we're shocked by different things. And so she really had a hard time, and she went back and forth and, sought out so many different people, mentors, teachers, coaches, friends. got everybody's opinion. And I think ultimately what it always comes down to with Katie is she just doesn't want to let anybody down. And I think when she finally, like kind of listened to her heart and her gut and everything, I think what she was pretty much, she has really closed that chapter. Now she will still be in class this upcoming year and has already told us that she's ready to lace them up and to step into practice. So we'll look forward to taking advantage of having her. I don't know that our team will really take advantage or love having her on the other end of the ball, but it'll be great to still have her involved in our program a ton.
So I'm currently talking to a former 3-time All-Defensive Player in the Missouri Valley Conference that was also the 2000 Defensive Player of the Year. When was the last time you laced him up and got down in the defensive slide and gave a little pistols to have to show the kids this is how we do it?
I would say it's pretty regular. I think I still impress people. And I don't know that our team necessarily really appreciates my humor when like my stance is lower than most of theirs. But I can't necessarily say that there's consecutive possessions or anything full court that's ever happening. So, but yeah, no, I loved the fact because Katie, and speaking of Katie, and even in Anna Miller, who her defensive prowess was also really, really impressive as kind of like that goaltender, that someone that we just were able to, to utilize to, for the most part, protect the paint. Anna's gifts were obviously a lot different than what my gifts were and what Katie's gifts were. But I love the fact being able to give Katie such a hard time because she's phenomenal on the ball. And I said, and that's what you're good at. And I said, the reason that I was, like on the all defensive team was because I actually knew where the ball was when my player didn't have it. And so we had some good candid moments of being able to just, kind of go back and forth about the importance of defense.
Do the kids know that you were the 2000 Defensive Player of the Year in the Missouri Valley Conference?
I really doubt it.
I mean,
I doubt it.
I feel like that needs to be like you've got that engraved on something and just walking around at anytime you're just displeased with the defensive effort, be like, hey.
Right.
Like, come on.
Here we go, guys. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
Like Mother's Day, and maybe the family can take care of this for you. Get something gold plated to at least like let them know.
I also think what would probably happen in that situation is if our team did know that, what they probably would come back and say is, just so you know, Coach, Jackie Stiles probably scored at least 30 on you numerous times. So
years go by.
And that's true.
You don't need to worry about that. It just, you've got the plaque saying, hey, this is what I did. So, all right, listen, the Dinnebeers and the Millers and the Beckers, there's always seniors that graduate, but it just, again, feels like this is kind of the end of a real era and a chapter within this Drake program. How different is it going into this offseason when it's just this big three that you've had and have accomplished so much are now gone, and it's the standard. We still need to be able to succeed, but it's just going to look different next year.
Oh, it definitely is. And I think, a number of things that our coaching staff has continued to talk about and really, like the evolution of their, their experience and what has happened over the course of the last ultimately 4 years during their careers is one, their pride and passion and loyalty to this program has really shown through because they continued to stay here. But I think the other thing that's exciting and our coaching staff has talked about is, one of the things Drake basketball has really been known for 5 people in double figures. And, our ability to have scorers always thinking, scoring, on every pass, on every cut and things like that. So we get to, for the most part, go back to the drawing board and to really enhance our chemistry and our culture, our ability to pass and what we do offensively. I think we're just overly excited to see what ultimately our brand new freshman will bring, what Lexi, our a new transfer will bring, and then just watching, for the most part of this upcoming summer, of all of those just nuances, just being able to see what are like, what are we going to be extremely, extremely good at? And, and offensively, I think it's a fun style. And I think we're looking forward to see, like kind of those shining stars, like really present themselves.
I feel like it's a pretty safe assumption that when the Drake Bulldogs have needed a bucket for the last couple of years, they've known exactly where they were going to go get it. In this new chapter and this new era, how does and I talked with Rochelle Turner about this a couple weeks ago about Caitlin Young. That was, you knew where you were going, and now she's gone. How does another player, whoever it may be, how do they earn that trust from you that eventually you'll go, okay, you're the one we need to go to?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of those, things are decided in practice. And, and then along with that, every single day we do end of game situations, whether it's baseline outs, sideline outs, different things. And so I think, putting players in those positions and then being able to see how they respond. There's also a different thing, like when whether it's pressure presents itself or your ability to even listen and process in those high tense moments. So I think all of those different things are going to continue to be learned as we jump into practices here, starting in this 8-week session in the summer and then really into the fall. So I think we could put up a dartboard and maybe go ahead and just throw some, like we could just put everybody's name up there, because right now that would be the case. But I think all of those things are earned and, and learned, and we get a chance to mess with a lot of things. And I just couldn't be more excited.
You have played in this league. You've coached in this league for a long time. Where would you rank, I don't know, this generation of guards that was kind of, it's clearing out, and whether it's Dinnebeer, whether it's McDermott at Northern Iowa, and Lacey Stokes, Missouri State, Ford and Polk, Murray State, Dowell, Illinois State. It just felt like there was just a gluttony of just awesome guards in this league. I don't know that rank is the right word, but this group has to be, from what you've seen over the last 3 decades, towards the top of as a collective. Yes.
I would definitely agree. But I also think, Jeff, I'm old enough to say, like you've got the Christy Cerrone's, like at Illinois State, you've got, the Jackie Stiles, you've got Tara Mitchum. I mean, like you've got a whole, like Carly Deer. I mean, I could list the whole Missouri State team for you. You've got Wichita State, who back in the day, my goodness sakes, I feel like I could name all of their players too, and Angela Buckner. I mean, there you've got a couple like more like posts, even, I mean, like Evansville, like with, Shiko Ono, like, I mean, there were so many players, I think, and as I think about like our era or my era, and then really even 8 years later, it felt like you had a whole nother cycle of just phenomenal players in the league, Carrie Koch. I mean, like just so many. So I think what's really special about the Missouri Valley Conference is we have attracted really, really fantastic players. And I think, as we continue to, I guess, evolve as a league, and then also, just trying to retain these amazing women who can come into a conference and then just fully understand, we do deserve the respect. We are playing at a very, very high level, from a net ranking standpoint, like as we keep edging up there, just being able to, get this league to a 2-bid sort of scenario. And I think a lot of that has to do with is retaining amazing players, who want to stay highly competitive and continue to play in this conference.
How has, in terms of retention and maybe just getting on the front end, how is NIL in the women's game? How has that just impacted what you do on a day-to-day basis right now?
Yeah. I think it's becoming more ever present. I think it's these conversations become much more natural, I guess, for people to be able to have, and in the coaching realm of things, we have to become comfortable with having these conversations. It's a new wave and a new era, I guess, that we're embarking on. So yes, it is. I'm just a touch old school in thinking that, a Drake education and, like having an amazing experience and championship basketball, all of those things should 100%, like they should matter. But I also think this is the new wave, and we've got to get used to it. But I also think, back to, the Missouri Valley and us really understand in our administrations, you just listened to Commissioner Jackson talk about the different things that we need to make sure that we're doing as a league, just ultimately putting our teams at the forefront of all of this so that we can continue to retain these great players.
You guys, you have won 93 games in 4 seasons. You have been to the NCAA tournament twice. You've been to the postseason 4 times. How much better of a head coach is Allison Pohlman on May 7th, 2025 than you were on May 7th, 2021?
Holy cow. That's a great question. And I actually had no idea how many wins that, like career wise. I just know
We'll
that
get you to 100 by Thanksgiving. We can get you to 100.
Yeah, well, I would really like that. That would be fantastic. I would be one very happy coach on November, whatever, 20th, if that's the case. I think much better. I mean, I think we all have to continue to grow. I think, we just hired, a new coach and we've had, a number of different players. I think even different conversations, you learn and you evolve and you get brand new things added to your whole repertoire, in every single outing or every single time that you have any sort of interaction. So I would definitely say, better. There's a lot of things, that I would like to take back. There's a lot of possessions I would like to, that still kind of stick with you. But I would say, just experience wise and, trust and confidence and all of that sort of stuff. I would definitely say, definitely a different version. But I would also say, still someone that's unbelievably excited about Drake University and Drake women's basketball and really what we've been able to do and what we will continue to do here. This is just a great place. I love where I'm at. And, I love this team. I love our culture. And I love the fact that like you walk in the NAP Center and there's a lot of banners hanging up there. So just hope to continue, the storied success that we've had here. But ultimately just so grateful and so thankful to be a part of the process.
Last question, and it's about those banners. 5 trips to the NCAA tournament since 2017 for this program. And, this is we got so much Drake happiness going on here. That's the Drake I'm looking for. 5 trips to the tournament. You've been there twice. Player-led teams are the best teams, we always hear, but you have all that experience out the door. And when we just say that the standard's the standard, and you guys have had so much success here the last decade plus, how do you have to approach it this summer to not let there be a step back and to just say that this is what we do here and we're going to keep doing it?
Yeah. Well, I think where that started really was, our postseason with our 8 returners. And I think for 4 weeks, they figured out how to grind and they figured out that, there's work, but there's also hard work and there's good reason to be able to, like when you have something in your heart and that like there's different things that you want to accomplish and continuing to get better and player development, I think is something that, I know all staffs, say this and definitely make it a priority and a focus, but player development, I think is 100% on the coaches. And so I think we have great plans in place. I think ultimately this summer, it's going to be about, lace them up, but you got to lace them up real, real tight and, just figuring out a way for our squad to get better, but also, like you said, that player, led those sort of interactions of where they can develop their chemistry, not only on the court, but also off the court. I think it's all relative. And so that's the magical time about the summer is because you have a little bit more time to really get to know those inner workings. And I again, can't wait, but I am still going to enjoy my May and try to get my handicap at least. I would love to have it in single digits, but there's probably no chance it's going to happen.
Well, you got a little bit of time to get out there and get on the range and get that work in. So Allison Pohlman, thank you so much for the time today. Again, I'm sorry for the little delay, kept you a little longer than I wanted, but you were awesome. So thank you. Enjoy your downtime. And
yes. Jeff, thanks again. Thanks for, right. Yep. Have a good day.
Thank you. All right. There's Allison Pohlman. So thank you to Coach Pohlman. Thank you to the commissioner, Jeff Jackson, for being with us. We had to do our little tap dance, and we got everybody in today. Coming up on Friday, we will talk with the new head coach of the Drake Bulldog men's program. Eric Henderson will be with us. And so that will be Friday morning. He'll be with us at about 9:10 a.m. So we are here, as always, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 o'clock here through the off season. Cover Missouri Valley Conference men's and women's basketball. Do us a favor. Please head on over to YouTube. Just go search Morning in the Valley. Subscribe to that page. It'll help get us some more visibility, get it out to the more college basketball fans out there. I know there's lots of Valley folks out there that hopefully can get some value out of this, and hopefully you have too. So I appreciate you being with us today. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll be back Friday morning, 9 o'clock, right here on Morning in the